A fox can stand completely still beneath falling snow for several minutes, ears angled downward, waiting for one precise sound before committing to a leap it cannot take back. Most humans never get that precise. We don't wait for one clear signal and then commit. We wait for every signal to be perfect and call the waiting itself a kind of progress. Somewhere out there is a man who has wanted to start a YouTube channel for 3 years. He's watched dozens of tutorials on lighting, scripted his first 10 videos in a notes app, researched 11 different microphones. He hasn't uploaded a single video. If you asked him why, he wouldn't say I'm scared. He'd say calmly, I'm just waiting until I'm actually ready. A fox would never make that decision, not because a fox is braver, because the fox mind doesn't measure readiness the way we do. And once you see the difference, you're probably going to recognize someone in this video, possibly yourself. Here's the strange part about a human brain. It doesn't only reward you for finishing something, it rewards you for picturing yourself finishing something, planning, researching, imagining the outcome. All of it can feel like genuine progress, because the brain doesn't always distinguish between rehearsing success and actually producing it. The fox mind teaches something almost opposite. There's no reward for imagining a successful hunt back in the den. Nothing changes for a fox until something real happens out in the snow. A sound, a scent, a shift in the wind. If the fox mind could speak, it might say, nothing counts until it touches the world outside your head. Our YouTuber, let's call him Kareem, felt productive nearly every day for 3 years. And in a sense, he was working. Just not on the thing he thought he was working on. He was building a more detailed fantasy of being a successful creator, not a channel. The two feel identical from the inside. They are not the same thing. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because people like Kareem aren't careless. They're careful. They think through every outcome before acting. And that's exactly the trap. The same trait that would make someone excellent at the goal is often the trait keeping them from ever starting it. Watch what happens when a fox hunts under snow. It doesn't sprint at every faint sound. It filters constantly, discarding most signals as not yet enough, narrowing in only on the one that's precise. That filtering has a finish line. The moment the signal is clear enough, the body commits. Human filtering rarely has a finish line. Kareem could always find one more variable, better equipment, a stronger hook, a more original idea. The fox mind reminds us that information gathering without an endpoint isn't patience. It's a loop with no exit. Let's take apart that sentence. I'm waiting for the right moment, because it sounds wise, but it might be one of the more misleading things people tell themselves. It assumes readiness arrives before action, the way a green light appears before traffic moves. But for most things worth doing, readiness shows up during, sometimes only after. A student who keeps waiting to feel ready enough to start studying usually ends up cramming the night before anyway, and discovers the focus they were waiting for only arrived. Once the deadline forced their hand, the feeling didn't come first. The action came first, and the feeling followed it. A fox never waits for a guarantee that the hunt will succeed. There isn't one. It waits for enough signal, then moves before the moment passes. Waiting for certainty instead of enough information is how a hungry fox stays hungry. And it's how a finished video stays unfinished in a notes app. But before we go further, something needs to be said honestly. Sometimes, I'm waiting for the right moment isn't really about timing. It's fear, dressed in more respectable clothing. Fear of discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. Fear of losing the one excuse that's been quietly protecting you. As long as conditions aren't perfect yet, you never have to find out what happens when they are. That's not weakness. It's an old, very real instinct to avoid exposure, to risk, to judgment, to being seen trying and possibly failing. The trouble is, that instinct frequently fires at threats that exist only in the imagination, with no actual hawk anywhere in the sky. There's a difference worth sitting with here. A fox's caution responds to something present, an actual shadow, an actual unfamiliar scent. Human caution can detach from anything real and just keep running in the background, reacting to a danger that was only ever a thought. And there's a second version of this that has nothing to do with fear of the unknown. It's about something that already happened. Picture a man named Adam, who built a small business from nothing and watched it collapse publicly within 8 months. 2 years later, he has a genuinely good idea. He hasn't touched it. Not because he stopped believing in it, but because some part of him still remembers exactly what hope Felt like right before it hurt the last time. Naturalists who study fox hunting, patterns notice something interesting after a missed pounce. And the fox typically resets within minutes, shifts a few feet, and tries again at a new spot rather than fixating on the one that failed. There's a lesson hiding in that. A missed attempt updates the next attempt. It doesn't get carried indefinitely as a verdict on every future attempt. Adam's hesitation isn't a character flaw. It's just a much heavier memory than a fox ever has to carry, still shaping a decision that happened years ago. Here's the part that fools people most, because it can look exactly like fox-style patience from the outside, while doing the opposite. Overthinking feels like work, hours spent, real mental fatigue by the end of it. But a fox's stillness produces information about the world in front of it. Human overthinking, more often, produces nothing but more thinking. A hard conversation rehearsed 40 different ways, none of which ever leave the inside of someone's head. If this kind of distinction is interesting to you, the difference between a mind that's actually gathering something and a mind that's just spinning in place, that's more or less the whole reason this channel exists. If understanding the hidden psychology behind focus, attention, and human behavior fascinates you, subscribe to Fox Mindset. We upload new videos every 2 to 3 days, exploring how the fox mind would understand human behavior. There's a reason a fox can't afford to track every rustle in the forest at once. Divided attention isn't just inefficient out there, it's dangerous. A fox trying to monitor 3 signals simultaneously usually ends up catching nothing and missing the one thing it actually needed to notice. So its attention narrows hard onto a single point and lets everything irrelevant fall away. Certainty seeking does the opposite inside a human mind. What if this fails? What if there's a better way? What if I'm still not ready? Each question scatters attention across an imagined future instead of locking it onto the one real, available step. That's why someone can be genuinely talented and still feel stuck. Attention isn't missing. It's just pointed at every possible outcome instead of the one thing actually in front of them. There's one more lesson worth taking from the snow. A fox responds to the mouse that's actually there. It doesn't fall for a more exciting, imagined version of the mouse that might be bigger or easier to catch somewhere else. Humans do this constantly with their own ideas. As long as Kareem's channel stays unlaunched, it can still be the most successful version of itself in his head. The moment the first video goes up, it becomes real, smaller, rougher, more human than the fantasy. So, a strange thing happens. People quietly protect the dream by never testing it, because testing it is the only way it could ever fall short. The fox mind never has that particular problem. It was never attached to the story of the mouse, only to the mouse. So if certainty was never coming, and the perfect moment was never actually scheduled to arrive, what does the fox do differently in the instant right before it moves? It isn't courage exactly. There's no internal speech, no talking itself into bravery. It simply stops gathering once the signal is enough, and lets the body do what the information already supports, which leaves something worth carrying with you after this video ends. If the moment you've been waiting for was never really about time, and the fox mind never waits for it at all, what have you actually been waiting for this whole time? And maybe that's why some people protect their focus and move quietly, instead of announcing everything. If you've ever wondered why certain people never reveal their next move, there's a video waiting for you on your screen right now.